All that happens, we've got some real firing action for you, NHRA style.
It may seem that driving a top fuel dragster is a micro burst of incredible power that triggers hours of ecstasy. But not when things go wrong. Then it becomes a titanic battle of man versus machine and the forces of nature where an instant seems like a lifetime. Only a select few possess the finesse to be fast, know the sort of high-velocity valor that it takes to dance on the razor edge of speed at well over the triple century mark. 17 times a year, the drivers of the world's quickest accelerating race cars get together for a race. But there's a whole lot more at stake other than just winning or losing that event. They are attempting to earn points that will give them the right to compete in the Budweiser Classic for Top Fuel Dragsters, the richest race of its kind in the world with $50,000 at stake. Today, the 8 best cars are gathered here at the Fairplex in Pomona. It is going to be quite a show, with Don Prudhomme ending up #1 qualifier in this, his final season of competition. You know, it takes a lot more than just a driver, though. Practically an entire battalion of troops have got to get together to make these cars run the way they do. For that story, here's my friend Steve Evans.
Mack, that's a good analogy. Racing one of these cars is a little like going to war. And if you don't want a bay of pigs on your hands, you better have the right commander. And like any good military leader, he's going to spend most of his time in the war room or the trailer making critical decisions, reading that computer, how much weight to put on the clutch. A gram or two can make the difference between hooking up or smoking the tires. Look at all of these lines and jets and valves. All of that has to be absolutely perfect from round to round. The weather can change everything. It's the foot soldiers that really do all the work, the grunts. One on the left side, one on the right side, stripping off the cylinder heads between rounds. The diver, the guy down below, he gets the oil pan off, the rod nuts come loose so that the soldier's top side can remove the rods and pistons. They go into the war room for a check. There's an awful lot of decisions that have to be made, and it's the guys out here doing the work, relating to the general inside, that make it all happen. Now, what does the driver do? Well, on many teams, he has 2 functions. One is to mix the nitro, methane, and alcohol per the recipe described by the crew chief inside, and also the driver almost always will pack his own parachutes for pretty obvious reasons. Dave, let's go to war.
Stephen, what a battle in round #1. The top qualifier, Don Prudhomme, against Shelly Anderson, who made it into this very elite field in the bump position. Don Prudhomme, in his farewell season, has relied on the tuning skills of the quiet but experienced Wes Cerny.
He's kind of from the Keith Black school. You know, he's with Keith for a lot of years, and that's where I started. And he just has a complete understanding of what it takes to go fast and quick and do it the right way and the safe way.
The Snake's opponent in round 1, Shelly Anderson, draws on the skills of both her father, Brad, and computer whiz, Ray Alley.
He's a hard worker, he's a thinker, but most of all, he's a communicator. I can talk to Ray about the car and what the car's doing. Ray will honestly stop and listen. He's not like most that just, you know, throws it in one ear and out the other. He cares.
The #2 qualifier in this year's Bud Classic, Corey McLenithan, and his opponent in round #1 from the original generation of Top Fuel, Connie Coletta. For Corey Mack, his first season as a hired driver, he's drawn on the knowledge of one of the sport's master strategists.
Lee Beard's one of those guys that thinks everything well out, and he knows what he's doing when he gets out there. He takes a good look at the track and makes a good decision on the race car, and that's why he's so good.
Having raced Top Fuel for 4 decades, Connie Coletta has enjoyed his finest season ever, thanks to his lead commander, Tim the General Richards.
He knows how to make the car run. I mean, we stumble like anybody else does, but when it comes to reading the racetrack and reading the situation out there, he's very good at it.
The #3 qualifier, son Scott Coletta, is up against Kenny Bernstein, who had qualified #6. 1994 has truly been a magic season for Scott, winning the Winston Championship through the wizardry of the 1987 titleist Dick LaHaye.
8 final rounds that he's put me in this year, and the championship, he's, you know, he's it as far as I'm concerned. He got me where I am.
For over a decade, the name Kenny Bernstein has been synonymous with the first of the big budget crew chiefs.
Dale Armstrong's just a very talented individual. He's a reader, a thinker, an innovator, and I think those are the things that you have to have technology-wise to always go forward.
Two veterans round out our classic field. Joe Amato qualified in the number 4 spot. His opponent, Eddie Hill, the number 5 qualifier. Amato has won this event a record 6 times, but now the veteran faces the challenge with a new hand at the helm.
Jimmy Prack is one of your young lion crew chiefs. I think he's one of the up-and-coming guys. He can definitely make the power. If we can control it, stand back.
And for fan favorite Eddie Hill, the man in charge is a veteran sidekick who's faced many challenges.
Fuzzy Carter has gone through, he's been work hardened and heat treated.
There they are, the 8 drivers competing in this 10th annual classic, joining the folks from Budweiser and NHRA President Dallas Gardner in the pre-event activities. Under cloudy skies, we're expecting quite a show. This is the 10th annual running of the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic, and there is a $50,000 payday awaiting the winner. Here's the guy that everybody is considering the favorite. He qualified number 1 after an entire season of competition. The driver of the Skull Bandit, Don Prudhomme. His opponent is the young lady who won on this racetrack way back in February when she picked up the Winter Nationals title with her Slick 50 dragster. This is Shelly Anderson. She qualified number 8 with 2,000 points, and her best qualifying effort was number 3 at that Winter Nationals, an event that she won. Number 1 qualifier, Prudhomme, with 2,485 points, qualified number 1 twice at Topeka and Reading, and was most consistent 5 times during this 1994 season. Don Prudhomme qualified in the number 2 spot, and it is that consistent performance throughout an entire season that earned him the number 1 spot here. What a racetrack. This Fairplex facility over the last couple of years has undergone a transformation into a permanent super track, and the racing surface as good as you'll find anywhere in the country. Hard as it is to believe, over 30 years of competition and the 10 annual events of the Budweiser Classic, Don Prudhomme has only competed in 1 previous Classic. That was back in 1991. This is Shelly Anderson's premier performance. She has never before been a part of this very elite field with the huge payday awaiting the racers at the end of the day. The burnout's completed. Prudhomme in the near lane, Anderson in the far lane. Lane choice going to the quicker qualified car. Not only is this a battle between 2 great drivers, but 2 great crew chiefs. Brad Anderson, Ray Alley for Shelly, Wes Cerny for the Snake. Oh, wheel stand by Prudhomme forces him to shut off. And Shelly Anderson blisters the track. 471 at 302 miles an hour. That breaks the national elapsed time record held by Scott Coletta. What a run on both sides of the racetrack. Take a look in the near lane. Prudhomme with lots of traction, maybe a bit too much, as the front end keeps up, and not away, as Prudhomme has experienced a couple of blowovers in his career. He was not about ready to have it happen again. But look at Shelly Anderson. This is the 2nd quickest elapsed time in history. Let's go to the far end. Here's Steve.
You want to see a face light up? 471.
That's awesome. Oh, man, we needed that so bad.
That's the 2nd quickest time in history, I believe.
Hey, this is wonderful. We couldn't ask better. Big Bud, we won first round. I beat Prudhomme. He's beat me 3 times this year. This is wonderful. Thank you.
It is indeed wonderful.
Oh, look at the smile. It tells it all. Shelly Anderson breaks the record. She can set it if she backs it up within the required 1% on the next run. Here's our next pair of bum burnout by Scott Coletta. That's about the only thing you can say. Very, very weak for Kenny Bernstein and the Budweiser King. We're riding on board. Now, down again to the far end. Here again, Steve Evans.
Snake, you had to get out of that one.
Yeah, I had to. You know, it's been carrying the wheels a bunch, carried them over at Dallas, and what can I tell you, man? It just got too high that time. I couldn't do nothing with it, you know.
When that front end starts up, there is only one thing you can do, and that's lift out of the throttle and hope it comes back to the pavement. Scott Coletta with a burnout that was less than auspicious, let's say, as maybe a problem or two. The crew checking things over. Scott sitting inside the car. He is the number 3 qualifier. He qualified number 1 3 times this year at Atlanta, Columbus, and Denver. Meantime, Bernstein qualified number 1 at Brainerd, but did not qualify at Houston. That was the first time in 168 races, dating all the way back to 1983 when Kenny Bernstein was running the Bud King funny car, that Kenny Bernstein failed to qualify. Dick LaHaye, the crew chief, looking on as Scott Coletta waiting word to pull up to the starting line. There is Dale Armstrong. He's saying that the other car is broken. He uses hand signals to relay that information to Kenny Bernstein. And you hear in the background the engine being shut off by Scott Coletta, winding down after he pulls the fuel shut-off cables. That's how you stop one of these nitro-burning engines. And right there is the problem. Throttle linkage broken at the injector hat. He had no throttle pedal at all, and it happened on the burnout. So Bernstein gets an incredible break here in round number 1. He's automatically into the semifinals. Oh, 303 miles an hour, the king of speed, showing it here in the Budweiser Classic at an elapsed time of 4:85. The American International Airways car, what a disappointment for Scott Coletta. Let's watch. Circled, you see the throttle linkage on the injector as Scott squeezed it open during the burnout. Very little throttle needed during a burnout. Something snapped, and there it was. His racing day was over on the burnout. A tough break for Coletta. Steve?
Take him anywhere you can get him, but it just didn't have any beans.
No, it really didn't, Steve, and you're right. We'll take him any way we can. Sorry for Scott having a break like that, but you got to get a break every now and then. But no, it needs some more power, some clutch work. We got to step on it, especially those cars running 470s.
We're in the midst of round number 1 of the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic. Right now, let's go over to Scott Coletta's pit area. Scott is with son Corey and Steve Evans.
Talk about your $5 part costing you 50 grand, Scott Coletta. That's simple throttle linkage.
That's for sure. I don't even think it costs $5, but I guess it's not our day, you know.
Being consoled nicely here by Corey, though.
Yeah, he helps a lot, that's for sure.
Here's another guy that helps a lot. This is Dad Connie Coletta, the bankroll behind that Coletta Flying Services team. Winner of the U.S. Nationals this year. He qualified 7th in the Bud Classic. His best effort, number 2 at both Houston and Dallas. But the leader in the number 1 qualifying spot, none other than Corey Mack. He was only 15 points behind Don Prudhomme in the number 2 spot, and he qualified number 1 6 times, and a lot of that responsibility fell on the shoulders of his crew chief, Lee Beard. A battle between crew chiefs? You bet. Tim Richards or Connie Coletta. He wrenched Joe Amato to 6 championships in the Bud Classic. But it won't be Connie Coletta's day either, as Corey Mack runs a 479 at 296 miles an hour. A little bit of smoke coming out of the engine at the end of the quarter-mile run. Watching the far lane as the McDonald's dragster gets a giant advantage off the starting line and holds on to it. He needed every bit of it, though, because this was good on paper, at least. 479 for Corey Mack. Connie Coletta ran a 480, but the whole shot was a car length.
Well, Mac, I sounded like a genius down here because I told everybody Corey Mack would run 479. You always run 479.
Is that what it ran? That's fantastic. The guys did a great job. This McDonald's car is really moving out. And I'll tell you, some other people laid down some impressive times, but we're going to take them one at a time and just try to get her to the final. I want to win this Bud Classic.
Not everybody.
Steve, I think that is the sentiment seconded by everybody that's competing and everybody that didn't qualify. There is Fuzzy Carter. He kind of played a traffic cop, if you will, signaling to Ursi Hill where Eddie needs to back up. Somewhere between the rear of the car and the front of the car, communications may be a bit bad, as Eddie is having to snake his way back into his tracks left after the burnout. The purpose of the burnout, of course, to heat up the tires to operating temperature to get them as clean as possible. Eddie qualified number 5 in this event. His best efforts coming at Seattle and Indy, where he was the number 1 car. And Joe Amato, the guy that's won more of these events and the only racer in competition today that has competed in all 9 previous events, qualified 4th. His only #1 spot this season came at Houston. Jimmy Brock, his crew chief here in 1994, has been working with a lot of different combinations, and it never achieved the consistency that's needed to not only finish high in the Budweiser Classic, but also to win a lot of races. Problems again for Joe Amato as Eddie Hill streaks to the finish line with what is proving to be a subpar 488 at 284 miles an hour, but Amato is out in round 1. Here are the pairings for the final 4. It is Shelly Anderson with quick time of the weekend so far up against Eddie Hill. Kenny Bernstein, the defending champ, races Corey Mack. Let's go to Steve.
I don't have to tell you, Eddie, it's going to take more than 488s to cop the cash here today.
Well, I believe that's right, too, but we're proud to take a round any way we can get it. I don't know what happened to Joe, but we're proud to get to the finish line first.
He smoked the tires and you didn't.
Well, that'll do it.
The Budweiser King, Kenny Bernstein, against Corey McLenathan in the McDonald's Dragster. Corey Mack has the lane choice in this pair based upon his 479. And if you'll recall the comment by Kenny Bernstein, he said, didn't have any beans. He needs more power, needs more elapsed time if he hopes to win again and repeat as the champ. While Corey Mack has a 479 to his credit, everybody is still talking about that amazing 471 elapsed time set in round #1 by Shelly Anderson. It's got to be on the mind of Dale Armstrong. He has had great success as the crew chief for Kenny Bernstein. As we said at the top of the show, he was the first of the big budget crew chiefs. There's another guy with a high salary, and he definitely earns every penny of it. Lee Beard, the crew chief on Corey Mack's car, owned by Larry Minor. And Bernstein has to shut it off as he smokes the tires, and Corey Mack goes through and to the final round with an elapsed time that he certainly hoped would have been better. 497 at 289 miles an hour. Buzzy Carter starting the engine for Eddie Hill. The same tasks being performed for Shelly Anderson. The question here is, will Shelly be able on this run to run quick enough to back up within 1%? The 471 she ran around earlier and pick up the new national record and a $50,000 bonus as the newest member of the Slick 50 World Record Club. Slick 50 posted some money at the start of the season. It was added to at each event that the record was not broken. Nobody has set a new Top Fuel record all season long. Shelly's got a shot at it now. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack. Here again, Steve Evans.
Instead of a 79, it ran a 97. It's a wonder the blower's still on it.
Yeah, we're very lucky, very lucky. It felt like a dog out there. I kept waiting for that big old Budweiser bad boy to come cruising by me, but we're in the final. That's what counts, you know. We're going to have to go back and definitely have to pump her up. Basically, she was pumped up for that round, but it sure didn't look like it, did it?
Dropping cylinders.
A drop cylinder is one that fails to fire. Earlier, Steve had a chance to visit the Shelly Anderson pit area and check on what the crew chiefs are up to.
Here is a perfect example of the crew chief decision-making power we talked about earlier. On Shelly Anderson's car, Ray Alley doesn't want to change a thing on a car that's run 471. He could put a new blower on. Instead, the crew removed the impellers here, pulled them out of the case, and re-stripped the Teflon that seals them to the case to ensure that she's got maximum boost to try to run another 470 and maybe win 50 grand.
Shelly Anderson concentrating on the staging process. Same for Eddie Hill. Tremendous race. Hill dropping a cylinder in the last few hundred feet, and Shelly Anderson gets her national record at a 474 and goes to the finals. Shelly Anderson becomes the new national record holder and picks up $50,000 in the process, but she needs to hone her starting line skills a bit if she hopes to compete against Corey McLenathan. She was way late against Eddie Hill. This race on paper doesn't look that close, but in reality, the margin of victory only 0.005 of a second, and it was just a matter of inches at the finish line as Eddie ran a 482. Shelly will pick her lane over Corey Mack in the finals of the Bud Classic. Here's Steve.
You've never run like this in your life. Few people have. 474.
We're real happy. This is wonderful. Budweiser, maybe we'll attract a sponsor. Right now, we're not racing next year, so this is real nice.
What a weekend for Shelley. That is Lee Beard performing the same task for his driver, Corey Mack. The Golden Arches crew is going to have to really reach deep for some performance here. If you'll recall, in the Final Four, he only ran a 4.97. Shelley more than 2/10 quicker. And McLenathan breaks on the starting line. Shelley Anderson, another 4.71 at 296 miles an hour. That run only a thousandth of a second slower than her first round time. Corey McLenathan's car braking right on the starting line. You see the flames coming out of the headers. It never moved. But Shelley Anderson did. That's Corey Mack. That is what you would describe as an unhappy driver. I would feel the attitude's different at the far end.
With unheard of performance, young lady, you have won $50,000 and the Budweiser Classic.
Well, I want to thank Budweiser. Dad said this was for $50,000. I was racing for the trophy, and I got it. I'm real happy.
Well, another 4.71, 2 in 1 day.
Unbelievable. I don't know where it came from. I'll be the first to tell you. My crew's doing wonderful. Everybody's working well together, and I just hope I drive better.
Well, I know where the 50 grand is coming from, and that trophy you wanted from Anheuser-Busch, Karen Holschlag. What a moment for Shelley Anderson.
And what a weekend it's been indeed. Shelley Anderson, winner of the Budweiser Classic in her rookie appearance. There was a great announcement today. Next year, the Budweiser Classic will pay $100,000 to the winner. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Pomona, California.
So there you go, big money racing for you, NHRA drag racing style. Peter Suchet alongside me.